Hitting $100,000 feels like winning until you understand what it actually represents. Most people celebrate it like a finish line, when in reality, it's the moment the real game finally starts. I'm Kyle, and I've watched more people sabotage their future right here than at any other point in their financial lives. Six figures isn't success, it's a fork in the road. One direction leads to real wealth, the other leads to a prettier version of the same financial stress. Treating your first 100K like permission to upgrade your lifestyle doesn't reward your discipline, it erases it. This is the most dangerous inflection point you'll ever cross, because for the first time, the enemy isn't lack of money, it's temptation. Biology is the real problem most people never account for. The moment your account shows six figures, your brain relaxes, survival mode turns off, and that's exactly when bad decisions slip in. You tell yourself you've earned it, and emotionally that feels true. Mathematically, it's disastrous. The first $100,000 is brutal precisely because it's built almost entirely by your labor, long hours, delayed gratification, saying no when others said yes. Your money barely helped. But once you cross that line, something shifts. Capital starts to carry weight. Pulling $30,000 out now for a luxury purchase doesn't just cost you cash, it deletes the future compounding those exact dollars we're about to produce. I don't see a balance when I look at 100K. I see a workforce. Fire them early and you lose the war after winning the first battle.
Strip emotion out of it and the numbers make the point for you. 7% growth on $10,000 is forgettable. 7% on $100,000 is life-altering. That's the difference between buying something and buying time. This is where capital finally begins to match effort. And this is where most people make the wrong move. They slow down exactly when momentum becomes possible. Think of $100,000 as minimum viable capital. Not wealth, not freedom, just the threshold where the engine actually starts running. Stop here, and you've built a rocket, fueled it, and decided to stay on the launch pad. The milestone isn't the prize, it's the ignition point. Surviving this phase requires a different operating system. Wealthy people don't ask what something costs, they ask what it prevents, what does it delay, what future return does it destroy. That's the capital-first framework. $100,000 managed correctly can quietly produce $8,000 a year forever. The rule of 72 makes this brutal to ignore. At reasonable returns, that money doubles every decade. Spend $20,000 now and you're not spending 20, you're amputating six figures from your future. That's the trade most people never consciously see. Your first $100,000 isn't spending money, it's a foundation. Break the foundation for a short-term reward, and the structure never holds.
Up until now, growth was linear. You worked, you saved, you crawled forward. At this point, velocity becomes possible, but only if you don't interfere. 3 to 5 more disciplined years after 100K is where compounding turns aggressive. This is the vertical phase people talk about but rarely reach. The mistake is easing off too early. Think of takeoff. The most fuel is burned before the plane ever leaves the ground. Throttle back too soon and you stall. You're high enough now to feel comfortable, but not high enough to coast. Autopilot only works once you're well above the turbulence. Until then, engines stay on. Fear shows up wearing a new disguise at this level. It's no longer fear of having nothing, it's fear of losing what you built. That's why people suddenly become conservative at exactly the wrong moment. Parking 100K in low-yield assets feels safe, but it quietly guarantees stagnation. If you're under 50, your job here is multiplication, not preservation. Market swings that once felt terrifying are now opportunities because your capital finally has mass. 5-figure fluctuations are the entry fee. Weak hands panic and retreat. Strong hands understand that recovery favors those who stayed invested. If seeing a temporary $10,000 swing makes you flinch, you're not ready for 7 figures yet. This stage isn't about comfort, it's about capacity. Crossing the $100,000 mark demands an immediate behavior change, not celebration. The first move is a ruthless lifestyle audit. Look at your current spending and confirm that your cost of living hasn't risen more than 5% since you were at 50K. This is what I call lagging luxury, intentionally keeping your lifestyle 2 levels behind your income. Six-figure earners who live like $50,000 earners create something most people never experience, a massive surplus. That surplus, the delta between income and expenses, is your primary weapon. At this stage, every dollar of that delta must be routed automatically into tax-advantaged accounts first, then into a brokerage account. Automation is non-negotiable. If the money touches your checking account, it's already in danger. Use a 3-bucket system: survival expenses, the untouchable 100K foundation, and an aggressor fund for new opportunities. Luxury is never purchased with salary, it's purchased with excess cash flow produced by assets. If your capital can't buy it on its own, you can't afford it. Full stop. At this level, taxes quietly replace rent as your biggest enemy. This is where the shift from saver to strategist must happen. Maximizing your 401k, HSA, and Roth IRA is no longer optional, it's defensive positioning. As your capital grows, tax drag becomes a silent compounding killer. Techniques like tax loss harvesting aren't clever tricks, they're structural necessities. Ignore them, and you're voluntarily handing over decades of future growth. Think of it like a hull breach. When your boat was small, a leak was manageable. At 100K, the same leak sinks you. This is also the moment to start thinking beyond a single income engine. Real estate, private lending, or small business equity begin to make sense here, not because they're flashy, but because they add redundancy. 1 income stream is fragile, 3 is resilient. At the 100K fork, you finally possess seed capital, the kind that buys access to rooms and opportunities that were previously closed. Eventually, the grind stops being permanent and starts being strategic. People ask how long they need to stay aggressive after reaching 6 figures. The real answer is simple: until the math stops needing you. There is a point of inevitability, usually somewhere between 250K and 400K, where time and returns alone guarantee the outcome. Your job at 100K is to sprint toward that point. Age matters here. Hit 6 figures early, and a few focused years can change the rest of your life. Hit it later, and you compress the timeline by intensity. Run the numbers. Find your freedom number. Translate it into months, not decades. Once you see that you're saying no for 36 months instead of forever, discipline becomes far easier. This isn't about denying life, it's about upgrading it. Financial freedom is delayed gratification turned into permanent leverage. Execution requires structure, not motivation. The next 24 months should follow a clear roadmap. First quarter, lock the foundation. Separate your emergency reserves, seal the 100K, and mentally label it untouchable. Months 4 through 12 are about sacrifice with intent. Cut one major recurring expense and push your savings rate higher. Use this phase to deepen your understanding of more advanced investment tools. Months 13 through 18 are about intelligent diversification, not randomness. Add a new asset class that complements what you already own. Months 19 through 24 shift back to income. Use the confidence that comes with real liquidity to negotiate harder, pivot careers, or build something on the side. Track milestones deliberately. 150K means momentum. 200K means escape velocity. At that point, progress accelerates because behavior has already been rewired. The speed increase isn't luck, it's earned.
Most people don't fail here because of bad math. They fail because of predictable behavior. The first killer is the upgrade trap, letting banks and brokers define what you can afford.
The second is false expertise, believing that saving 100K makes you smarter than the market. It doesn't. The third is comparison, watching broke people spend borrowed money and feeling behind. You aren't behind, you're ahead, quietly. The fourth is emotional lending, mixing money with relationships where discipline doesn't exist. That costs both capital and trust. The fifth is tax blindness, forgetting that rebalancing and growth have consequences if unmanaged. The pattern is always the same. Lifestyle goes on offense while investments go on defense. That inversion is fatal. Capital must attack. Lifestyle must stay restrained. Ego is the real enemy here. Everything reduces to a single trade, comfort now or sovereignty later. Hitting $100,000 is an achievement, but lingering there is dangerous. You are standing at the fork. One direction leads back to earning, spending, repeating. The other leads forward to ownership, leverage, and control. Builders choose differently. Your task today is specific. Calculate your delta, the exact gap between what you earn and what you spend, and increase it by $200 this month. Lock that $200 into your foundation and make a 10-year promise to yourself. Drop a comment and say where you are, still climbing or standing at the fork. Either way, stay disciplined. Don't let your present self steal from your future one. The first 100,000 is brutal. The second comes faster if you don't sabotage yourself. Let's stop performing wealth and start engineering it. Protect the foundation. Let compounding take over. I'm Kyle. I'll see you where patience turns into power.